Coming up on this Thursday edition of Daybreak, the defense chiefs of South Korea and China agreed to set up a military hotline this year to counter any emergency situations and boost their bilateral cooperation. Jordan's King Abdullah pledges to strike back against Islamic State, saying the gruesome murder of a Jordanian pilot at the militants' hands will not be in vain. Plus, a Taiwanese passenger plane crashes into a river shortly after takeoff, killing at least 31 people and leaving a dozen others missing in shallow water. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Thursday, February 5th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning: South Korea and China will set up a military hotline so they can coordinate their response to emergencies and communicate on a more regular basis. The deal was reached on Wednesday during talks between South Korea's Defense Minister Han Min-gu and his Chinese counterpart, who is in Seoul for a 3-day trip. Working-level discussions on establishing the hotline will begin very soon. Now, Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Military and nuclear threats from Pyongyang were at the top of discussions between Chinese Defense Minister Chang Wan-chan and his South Korean counterpart Han Min-gu in Seoul on this Wednesday. South Korea's defense ministry says the two countries agreed to expand bilateral cooperation on dealing with the communist regime. During talks, Mr. Han urged for Beijing to put more pressure on Pyongyang to end its nuclear program. To address the North's continued provocations affecting regional security, the two sides also discussed establishing a direct military hotline with one another, a move that would allow Seoul and Beijing to act promptly in case of a serious threat from the North. In addition, an agreement was made to hold working-level talks on the matter starting next week, with an aim to open the hotline within the year. South Korea and China have had hotlines between their navies and air forces since 2008. But a proposal to set one up between their defense ministries, dating back to 2007, was put up as China was hesitant to risk its relations with the North. This communication channel is widely expected to not only enhance security on the Korean peninsula, but also increase the pressure on Pyongyang. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, China's defense minister also met with South Korean President Park Geun-hye after his meeting with the South Korean defense minister on Wednesday. President Park exchanged greetings with Chang Wan-chuan and asked him to pass her regards on to Chinese President Xi Jinping. She also asked for China's cooperation in setting up the groundwork for the unification of the two Koreas. Chang wraps up his 3-day stay in South Korea on this Thursday. Now, it looks like there may be some progress in reopening the long-stalled 6-party talks on denuclearizing North Korea. Officials say South Korea and China held productive talks in Beijing over this very issue. Seoul's top nuclear envoy Hwang Jung-guk met with his Chinese counterpart Wu Da-wei on Wednesday, and they discussed Pyongyang's nuclear program and ways to resume the multilateral talks, which haven't been held since 2008. South Korea's ambassador to China said the two sides exchanged views on Pyongyang's relationship with its neighbors and its worsening relations with the United States. The nominee for the next U.S. Secretary of Defense has vowed to use a full range of capabilities to defend against missiles and weapons of mass destruction from North Korea, saying they pose a direct threat to the United States. At his Senate confirmation hearing on Wednesday, Ashton Carter said he would deploy more ground-based missile interceptors in both California and Alaska. Now, these are U.S. regions that could potentially be reached by North Korea's ballistic missiles. And to further protect against and respond to threats from North Korea, Carter said he would strengthen missile defense capabilities, which includes disrupting illicit proliferation networks used by North Korea, He also pledged to strengthen relations with South Korea to deter North Korea. And the top diplomats of South Korea and the United States are going to hold talks this weekend in Germany. Seoul's foreign ministry says Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se will meet with his US counterpart John Kerry on Saturday on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference. This is going to mark the first ministerial-level talks between Seoul and Washington this year, following a series of senior-level bilateral meetings. The two officials are expected to reaffirm their close coordination on tackling North Korea's nuclear ambitions and also discuss ways to try and bring Pyongyang back to the discussion table. Korea's main opposition party has proposed holding a referendum next year on amending the country's constitution. Now, this issue was once a hot topic, but it has faded into the shadows in recent months, with concerns about the economy and security taking the spotlight. Our Lee Ji-eun has more.
Let the public decide whether or not Korea needs an amended constitution. That's what the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy's floor leader Woo Young-gun plans to do next year.
Let's form a special committee at the National Assembly this month to start rewriting the constitution. Whether it be a semi-presidential system or a parliamentary cabinet system, let's discuss all options. Then we should hold a national referendum on the amended constitution during next year's April general elections.
The opposition camp has been criticizing the president for exerting, quote, emperor-like power under the constitution. It wants to revise the law to limit the president's power over nominating members of the cabinet and the constitutional court. The party is also pushing for a system in which the prime minister would take the administrative power, and such power would be guaranteed by the legal system, not by the president. However, the opposition camp's efforts to move forward with the issue faces a tough road ahead. For one, President Park Geun-hye refuses to discuss the issue. She says doing so would only shift the public's attention away from her economic initiatives, which she believes is a priority for the nation right now. The ruling party's new floor leader, Yoo Seung-min, also said Wednesday that they would need more time to discuss the issue because of contradicting views within the party. The current constitution was last revised in 1987 with the end of the country's military rule. Lee Ji-eun, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's finance minister says a tax hike should be the last resort to pay for expanded welfare programs. Speaking at the National Assembly on Wednesday, Choi Kyung-hwan said the government's priority is still on expanding the country's tax revenue by identifying those people and companies in the so-called underground economy that do not pay their due taxes. He added that the ruling and opposition parties should first agree on the scope of social welfare before trying to work out how to finance it. The minister's comments come as the ruling Saenuri party has slammed President Park Geun-hye's recent pledge to increase welfare without raising taxes. And President Park has taken another step towards realizing her vision of building Korea into a creative economy with the launch of a new innovation center that will hopefully become a hub for local bio and cosmetics firms. Our Song Ji-son reports.
A practical support center and regional hub that helps startups turn their creative ideas into businesses. That's the idea behind a group of innovation centers that are key to President Park Geun-hye's envisioned creative economy. On Wednesday, President Park opened a new center in Chungcheongbuk-do province that will specialize in bioindustry, cosmetics, and renewable energy. A total of $1.5 billion will be invested in the Center for Research and Development in Bioindustry, Medical, and Renewable Energy Technologies over the next 3 years. Part of the idea behind these centers involves large conglomerates providing smaller firms with know-how and resources. At the Chungcheongbuk-do Center, LG will play that role, with its healthcare arm sharing over 27,000 patents with smaller companies seeking to start businesses. The central province is known for producing 1/5 of the country's cosmetics. President Park pointed to China as an important target market for Korean cosmetics, as China is the world's second largest cosmetics market after the U.S., growing at an average of 10% each year. She also called on women in the region to participate in making a Korean wave of cosmetics overseas. The government will complete the launch of 17 creative economy innovation centers nationwide this year, all customized to foster designated industries in each region. Startups will be provided with R&D and financing support to help ease the difficulties that many smaller companies face when launching a business. 송지선, Arirang News.
And while we're on the topic of cosmetics, Korean-made skincare products are really highly sought after by Chinese tourists who come to the country. And this has given one domestic brand in particular a real boost. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Chinese tourists are vacationing in Korea in ever larger numbers, and they're not going home empty-handed. Cosmetic products are some of the popular items bought by the 6 million Chinese tourists that visited the country last year. The main beneficiaries of all this are Korean cosmetic brands, with some experiencing two-digit growth. In fact, Korean cosmetic giant Amore Pacific Group, which owns brands like Seoul and Innisfree, recorded its best earnings last year. The firm's sales edged up 25% last year from the previous year to more than $3.5 billion. Its operating profit jumped 52% to more than $517 million. And it's not just the tourists behind the company's growth. Its business operations in China have also borne fruit. Amore Pacific's sales in China increased 44% last year from the previous year. And to cater to the rising demand there, the firm plans to launch its skincare brand Iope in the Chinese market this year. Meanwhile, its low-end brand Innisfree is expanding into other Asian countries, such as Singapore, Malaysia, and Taiwan, as well as the United States. By increasing its footprint overseas, Amore Pacific expects a sales increase of 13% this year to more than $4 billion. This in addition to a 15% increase in operating profits this year from the previous year to $612 million. Due to this, Amore Pacific's target stock price has been raised by 10% on Wednesday to nearly $3,000 by High Investment and Securities and Dongbu Securities. Amore Pacific was founded in 1954 and is currently led by CEO Seongyong. Last year, it merged with one of the country's largest distribution companies, CJ Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, the world's biggest tech firms are betting on the future of the so-called smart home, which is a living space where every gadget is connected to the internet. And to give themselves the best shot, companies such as Google, Samsung and Intel have been aggressively snapping up promising startups and experts in the smart home business. Our Shin Se-min reports.
Intel Corporation, the world's largest semiconductor chip maker, has joined the competition for leadership of the fast-growing smart home market with its recent purchase of Lantik, a company that specializes in broadband access and home networking technologies. With the $280 million purchase, Intel is trying to strengthen its connected home and Internet of Things businesses, and it's not alone. It joins global IT companies like Samsung Electronics, Google, and Apple, which are already racing to get a piece of the action. The smart home market is worth over $48 billion as of last year and is expected to reach over $111 billion by the year 2019, with an annual average growth rate of nearly 20%. Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics closed deals in August for smart home device maker SmartThings and QuietSight LLC, a home automation startup and the air conditioner distribution company based in the U.S. Apple CEO Tim Cook said last year that the company had invested in 24 startups related to the smart home business in the past couple years. Google, the world's largest search engine, is also in the game. It bought a few startup companies that specialize in home automation to get a leg up on the fast-moving market. With other European IT companies rushing to enter the promising industry as well, it's only a matter of time before more devices inside the home are connected to each other. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
After months and months of dropping like a stone, global oil prices rebounded significantly this week by jumping nearly 20% in the space of just 4 days. But is this a sustainable turnaround or merely a blip before prices head south again? Our Hwang Jie reports.
Global crude prices have risen every day for the last 4 days, with prices gaining 19% over the period. That's the biggest advance since January 2009. U.S. benchmark West Texas Intermediate crude oil prices hiked 7% on Tuesday to $53 a barrel, while Brent oil finished up almost 6% at around $58 a barrel. The price gain came as the U.S. dollar tumbled around 1% against a basket of currencies on the same day, bolstering the value of dollar-denominated commodities. The drop was the biggest daily decline since October 2013. The surge in oil prices also came on the back of major energy companies announcing plans to streamline operations as a means to stem plummeting oil prices. BP made the latest move on Tuesday, saying it will slash spending on assets and investments by as much as $6 billion this year. So, is the oil sell-off over? CMC Markets' Michael Houston is skeptical, saying BP and other energy companies might have to prepare for prices to drop again.
It's going to have to keep a lid on costs. It's going to have to be very forensic in terms of future capital expenditure, and it's going to have to get used to essentially a much lower average oil price over the next 18 months to 2 years.
Industry group American Petroleum Institute also says that U.S. crude oil inventories rose more than 6 million barrels last week, fueling concerns about an oversupply. Traders also cite temporary factors like strikes at U.S. refineries that affected the 4-day oil price rally. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the global headlines we're following this Thursday morning from Seoul. For that, we connect to Eunice Kim, standing by at the news center. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. The rescue mission has turned into a recovery operation at the site of a TransAsia plane crash in Taipei, Taiwan, that killed at least 31 people. Dramatic video captured on a car dashboard shows the plane clipping an overpass before crashing into the Keelung River. Aviation officials said the domestic flight had lost contact with controllers shortly after taking off from Taipei's downtown airport and minutes before plunging into the shallow waters. 15 survivors were seen being pulled out from the wreckage, including a baby, but 12 people remain missing. Emergency teams were unable to get to the passengers at the front of the main body. They did, however, recover the black boxes that will help investigators determine the cause of the crash. This was the second deadly accident for the airliner in less than a year. And one day after the Islamic State released a horrific video showing the young Jordanian pilot being burned alive in a cage, Jordan's King Abdullah promised a relentless war and a severe response against the extremist group. State TV quoted the nation's monarch as saying the war will be waged to, quote, protect our faith, our values, and human principles. At dawn on Wednesday, Amman swiftly hanged 2 Iraqi jihadists on Jordan's death row, including Sajida al-Rishawi, the woman IS had demanded in exchange for Kenji Goto. Government spokesman Mohammed al-Momani hinted at an intensified collaborative effort with coalition members against IS. He said a military response will be announced at a future date. And staying on the war against extremism, a U.S. terror convict has pointed to members of the Saudi royal family as supporters of al-Qaeda. Zacarias Moussaoui, a former al-Qaeda operative imprisoned for life in the U.S., gave testimony as part of a lawsuit being filed against Saudi Arabia and a government-affiliated charity by families of 9/11 victims for knowingly supporting al-Qaeda. The 46-year-old said he had drafted a list of donors for then-leader Osama bin Laden and that among them were some, quote, extremely famous Saudi officials, including a former intelligence chief, Prince Turki Al-Faisal Al Saud. The Saudi embassy dismissed the claims as an intention to undermine Saudi-U.S. relations.
And a good Thursday morning to you all as we kick things off with the ongoing controversy involving Pak Taehwans. Now, in the latest report, it won't be just his medals that will be stripped. His teammates' medals will be stripped as well for all the relay competitions during the 2014 Incheon Asian Games. Because as we all know, there is no I in team. Now, according to FINA's doping control rules, if any member of a team competition, such as the relay events, are found to have been doping, then the entire team will be stripped of the medals as well. And with Pak Taehwans and his teammates winning 3 bronze medals during the 2014 Incheon Asian Games, not only will he be stripped of the medals, but his teammates as well. Now, speaking of teams, the Korean national football team has been in the spotlight a lot as of late, thanks to their remarkable run at the 2015 Asian Cup in Australia. And of course, of those players who really shined, it was also Seongyong, the captain of the national team, who held a brief press conference on Wednesday before leaving to England. Now, at the Incheon International Airport on Wednesday, the South Korean playmaker talked about the disappointment of having to finish second, but was also pleased with the way the team is shaping up. He added that it's great to hear that his buddy Lee Chung-young is returning to the English Premier League and vowed to continue his current form with his club Swansea City. Meanwhile, his return is quite the pleasant news for his club, as they remain winless in 2015 since Seongyong left for the Asian Cup. Now, while Seongyong is doing a great job as the captain of the Korean national football team, 10 years from now, there's a good chance that Lee Seung-woo of Barcelona youth team might be the skipper. And with his future ever so bright, his club isn't willing to sell him, especially to Real Madrid. Now, reports coming out this week that their arch rivals, Real Madrid, are keen on purchasing Lee Seung-woo from Barcelona. There were rumors that the transfer might actually happen, but no way Jose, says Barcelona, who made it clear that the Korean Messi is not for sale, despite his ongoing suspension, which will keep him from playing until he turns 18. Now, last year, due to a breach of international youth transfer rules, Lee Seung-woo has not been able to play for his club as he turns 18 in January of 2016. Now, you can ask any golfer and they'll tell you that a caddy is very important in the success of your game, and the caddies know that, which is why a group of caddies are suing the PGA. Now, a total of 82 caddies in the PGA have come together to file a lawsuit against the PGA asking for a better work environment, including health insurance and severance pay. But one of the major issues are the bibs that they wear with sponsor logos. They've stated that the PGA receives $50 million a year through these sponsors, but none of which are given to the caddies, despite having to wear these outfits with the sponsor logos. Meanwhile, the PGA have yet to state what they plan to do just yet. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. It was a mild but dusty day yesterday, and even this morning, the level of fine dust are higher than usual here in Seoul, so beware. But it should go back to the normal level as we head into the afternoon, and the skies will turn to crystal clear. But parts of the east, like Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-namdo province, have been suffering from heavy snowfall from last night, and it's still snowing in those areas. Up to 20 centimeters of massive snowfall is in store till today. for the Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-namdo province, and Jeollado province will also see less than 1 centimeter of accumulation, and all the snow is expected to let up this afternoon. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. So the afternoon high in Seoul and Gwangju will top out at 5, while Daegu and Busan will peak at 6 and 8 respectively. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island and Daejeon should see a high of 5, and Dokdo will rise to 2 later in the day. But that's all for the weather. Have a wonderful start to the day.
Well, thank you very much, Jian, for the weather, as always. And that's going to do it for now. Korea Today is coming up at the top of the hour, so stay tuned for that. Have a great day. Goodbye.